What does it actually mean to be free? Every great philosophical journey kind of starts with that exact question. At first glance, you might assume we're about to crack open a dense, centuries-old academic textbook. But what if I told you this profound, heavy question is actually the beating heart of a whimsical cartoon about a stretchy pirate? Today, we're pivoting away from the tired assumption that pop culture is just mindless entertainment. Instead, we're going to dive into it as a serious, genuinely profound study of existential self-determination. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the foundational concepts behind the incredible text, Philosophy and One Piece, a voyage through freedom, dreams, and justice. The author is basically inviting us to use the open sea as a metaphor to navigate the deep philosophical waters of this massive pop culture phenomenon. We're going to treat Monkey D. Luffy and his Straw Hat crew not just as fun fictional characters, but as actual philosophical figures. Their journey raises some of the most enduring questions out there about what makes a person truly human and whether our dreams are actually worth suffering for.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today's voyage. First, we'll examine the pirate as a philosopher. Second, freedom, dreams, and identity. Third, the ethics of chosen family. Fourth, power, justice, and oppression. And finally, we'll wrap up with the meaning of the treasure.
Section 1, The Pirate as a Philosopher, Rebellion on the Open Sea.
So, when we picture a traditional, historical pirate, we usually think of someone driven purely by wealth, domination, and, well, total lawlessness, right? But the One Piece pirate is a totally different breed. They're driven by freedom, self-determination, and moral rebellion. Breaking the law in this context isn't just mere criminality. It's a deeply ethical rebellion against unjust structures. It really challenges us to see the sharp distinction between what's legally mandated by the state and what is actually fundamentally just.
Take the protagonist, Luffy. His big dream to become the freest person on the sea literally has nothing to do with sitting at the top of some grand hierarchy. It's not about domination or amassing a massive fleet. It's about ultimate self-determination. And this perfectly aligns with the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre's existentialist idea that existence precedes essence. Luffy completely rejects social control, viewing the open sea as a realm of pure, unadulterated possibility. Moving right along to Section 2, Freedom, Dreams, and Identity, the cost of pursuing meaning. Now, in this universe, a dream isn't just some childish fantasy or a passing wish. It is the absolute deepest expression of a person's identity. And it's brilliant how these wacky anime tropes actually map perfectly onto some serious heavyweight intellectual giants. For instance, Nico Robin's dream to discover the true history explores Michel Foucault's theories on power and knowledge. Roronoa Zoro striving to be the world's greatest swordsman, that perfectly mirrors Stoicism and Aristotelian virtue ethics. Sanji's quest connects to Levinas and the ethics of care, and Usopp's dream to become a brave warrior acts as a textbook study of Soren Kierkegaard's concepts of anxiety and authenticity. Because of this, these dreams are massive existential commitments that require incredible sacrifice. There's a profound difference between a mere passing desire and a true life-defining vocation. Pursuing these dreams means taking a huge leap of faith right into the unknown. Think of Zoro's intense endurance and discipline. That pain isn't just there for dramatic effect. It's an ethical discipline required to transform and become who you are truly meant to be. Section 3. The ethics of chosen family. Loyalty without domination. So you might be wondering, how do all these fiercely independent dreamers actually work together? Well, they form a community that's held together by mutual trust, not just some rigid contract or blood tie. Friendship functions as a serious moral commitment here. Courage is defined not as the absence of fear, but as action despite it, which is exactly Kierkegaard's concept of anxiety, personified by characters stepping up even when they are absolutely terrified. And finally, we see an ethics of care and compassion, even toward enemies, offering support without ever demanding domination in return. Section 4. Power, Justice, and Oppression. Confronting the world government. When we shift gears to look at the societal level, the source material offers a really fascinating definition of tyranny. Tyranny isn't just about having physical strength or massive military might. It's the imposition of a world where others cannot freely become themselves. The great villains of this story aren't just evil because they hit hard. They're evil because they violently control the possibilities of others, stripping away agency and corrupting the will of anyone living beneath them. But, the analysis also points out that it's not totally black and white. Good people can and do serve flawed systems, and that leads to this heartbreaking tragedy of divided duty. It's a perfect illustration of Hannah Arendt's ideas on bureaucratic evil and Kantian duty ethics. We see noble characters within the Marines facing agonizing divided loyalties, caught terribly between their rigid institutional duty to a corrupt system and their own internal compass of personal justice. So, how exactly does someone break free from that kind of systemic oppression? Well, freedom truly begins when you accept solidarity. The deeply emotional struggles within the story reveal that true liberation isn't a solo act. The recovery of human agency and profound political healing only begin when we recognize the dignity of the other. Liberation absolutely requires solidarity, and the simple act of crying out and asking for help is shown as an act of immense philosophical courage. Section 5. The meaning of the treasure. Joy and inherited will. Let's move to the meta-narrative and see how this builds across generations. We're talking monumental human themes here. We start decades ago with the pirate king Goldie Roger, move forward to the philosophical doctor Hiraluke, then to Port Gistiace, all ultimately connecting back to the historical destiny of a figure known as Joy Boy. The story proposes that people may die physically, but their dreams continue through others. This inherited will is a historical force. It acts as a profound form of symbolic immortality that outlasts any single human life. Now, what's really interesting here is this incredible claim. Laughter is an active, profound political rebellion against despair, domination, and even death itself. In this philosophy, joy isn't just escapism or a refusal to take things seriously. It's actually a messianic hope that pushes back against the absurdity, trauma, and tragedy of the world. It directly echoes the joyful wisdom explored by philosophers like Camus and Nietzsche. So, what does this all mean for the ultimate treasure? The One Piece actually symbolizes a whole bunch of philosophical truth. Freedom, the revelation of historical truth, the destruction of oppressive borders, and the unity of the world. The titular treasure philosophically unites truth, freedom, and joy. It is the shared treasure of human community, proving that the end goal of this voyage is far, far more profound than just a pile of gold. And that brings us to our conclusion, the dawn of freedom. When we look at Luffy one last time, we realize he isn't some academic sitting around theorizing about philosophy. He's practically an anti-philosopher who lives it out entirely through spontaneous action. So the crucial point is this. To be free is to live your deepest dream. To be human is to recognize others' dignity. To be courageous is to act despite fear. To inherit a will is to continue unfinished justice. To laugh is to resist despair. And to sail is to accept uncertainty. These aren't just lessons for animated pirates, they are profound guidelines for navigating the incredibly uncertain sea of our own lives. I want to leave you with this really powerful central thesis from our source text. One Piece presents a philosophy of freedom, rooted not in isolation, domination, or individual power, but in dreams, friendship, inherited will, moral courage, and the liberation of others. As we wrap up this explainer, I challenge you to deeply consider that thought. What does it truly mean to seek a world where you and the people around you can live freely? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible voyage today, and whatever your dream is, keep seeking your own horizon.